Okay, welcome to the channel, viewers. Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. I want you to make sense of this.
Are taking place in both Sydney and Melbourne this afternoon, despite objections by police.
Now, you have to understand that the head of the serpent here is the Muslim Brotherhood that runs out of Iran and all the other Middle Eastern proxy geographical positions that they are influential in. And these people have got no, well, maybe a minority of the group has, but these people, for the most part, have no clue of what they're representing, how evil it is. You say, what right have you got to say that? Well, I've got Middle Eastern background. And you'll see Aboriginal flags in there as well, and I'm part Aboriginal. So bring it on. But these people have got no idea of the evil that they're inciting, that they're standing for. They've got no idea of how evil all this is. There is no such place in the Middle East known as Palestine. It's just a made-up name. It's just a holding place for people that were refugees that turned into a $1 million money scheme, multi-trillion-dollar money scheme, so they just left them there. And then Israel gave them the place in 2005. They gave them the land and said, righto then, yous look after the land. They left it with beautiful agriculture and all the rest of it for them to take over. They ruined all that. They dug tunnels like terror rats, like alley rats and alley cats, and turned it into a place for what this stands for, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is to annihilate the Jews and get the land of Israel. These people have got no clue of that.
In Sydney, tens of thousands of people are right now marching over the Sydney Harbour Bridge after the New South Wales Supreme Court refused the Police Commissioner's application for a prohibition order on the event. For more, we're joined now by reporter Nabil Al-Nashar, who is on the bridge right now. It looks pretty wet and miserable. Can you explain what you're seeing, Nabil?
Absolutely, Catherine. Thousands of protesters have braved this wet weather, a literal rainstorm. They've braved the courts, which ruled in their favor on Saturday, and they've braved the political will of Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, to be here today for the Harbour Bridge March for Humanity, as they spotted around the crowd next to the stage, but he isn't speaking to media. So big numbers. The organizers are hoping.
Okay, so there you go with that. The Australian government reckons that was a peaceful protest. See that woman there, Marine Farquhar, right? She's an Australian senator. She's got no interest in helping Australia whatsoever. She's only interested in her activism and promoting all that. I want to point her out because she's been in a lot of trouble. In fact, I think she was disqualified from the Senate for a couple of weeks. Now, if we jump out of this and go to this is where the Australian government's fallen out with Israel, right? Netanyahu has described Australia as abandoning Israel, that it's shameful and disgusting, and we've got all this Middle Eastern trouble starting to surface in Australia, anti-Semitism, which is what the Muslim Brotherhood want, wipe out the Jews. And now we've got this, tail between our legs, bang.
Since the terrible events of October 7, 2023, we have witnessed a number of appalling anti-Semitic attacks against Australia's Jewish community. I've made it clear that these sorts of incidents have no place in Australia and that I wanted ASIO and the AFP to investigate as a priority.
Now, can you see how much of a contradiction that is? I'm not sure if the man's aware of what he's saying. On the one hand, he's saying there's no room for this in Australia. Yet he'll stand there and let tens of thousands of people march across our Sydney Harbour Bridge as if it's a declaration to the world that the civil common general Australian believes in all that evil. And now he's getting up here right, saying, oh, we don't believe in all that. On the one hand, he's saying that the Muslim Brotherhood in Iran and everyone else that are driving these protests, that it's peaceful and okay, and screw Israel and the United States. We're just going to do it anyway, and we're going to reward the terrorists, Hamas, which are a proxy of the head of the serpent, Iran, right? And now he's saying there's no place for it in Australia. That's schizophrenic politics.
ASIO has now gathered enough credible intelligence to reach a deeply disturbing conclusion that the Iranian government directed at least 2 of these attacks.
Ladies and gentlemen, who do you think's directing the bloody protests in Sydney? Who do you think's directing all this Middle Eastern pro-Palestinian Hamas garbage going on in our streets? The fucking Rotary Club? The Lions Club? The RSL? It's Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood. The whole lot. The Westerners have got no clue about how evil and how cunning and clever these people are. And it's obvious because now these people have put their tail between their legs. They've fallen out with all our allies, right? They're putting up a front, oh, we're going to kick out this, that and all the other, but they're letting these people march our streets. They've got no comprehension of how insidious and how much of a parasite this thing is going to be on Australia. They haven't even started yet. They haven't even started.
It has sought to disguise its involvement, but ASIO assesses it was behind the attacks on the Lewis Continental Kitchen in Sydney on October 20 last year and the Adass Israel Synagogue in Melbourne on December 6 last year. ASIO assesses it is likely Iran directed further attacks as well.
Now, let me just say again, oh my God, I mean, wake up. Who do you think is directing the protests? The Middle Eastern pro-Palestinian protests. Who do you think's directing it? The local leagues club, the local footy club? It's Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not a game, it's not a hobby, it's real life. These people will chop you up. Penny Wong, who's about to get up in a minute. Where's she? Where's Penny Wong? She gets up. Here. They chop her up. If she went to Gaza and was left standing there, they'd chop her to bits. She's a lesbian. They'd throw her to the dogs. Sorry, Miss Wong, but that's the reality of it. You just don't understand what you're dealing with. Now, the Prime Minister goes on, or somebody, one of these go on to talk about the proxies, the Iranian proxies. Ladies and gentlemen, they're running all over our streets. Look, on the one hand, oh, we'll promote it. And now on the other hand, oh no, we can't have that. These people haven't even started yet. I'm telling you, the majority of these people do not understand the depravity and the evil and the sinfulness of what these barbaric people behind these flags, Hamas is just a bunch of choir boys that are a proxy for the Muslim Brotherhood. These people have got no idea, and our government let Sydney Harbour Bridge get taken over by this, and all of a sudden, oh, we're doing this. If this ain't a group of people with their tail between their legs, they've fallen out with all our allies and everybody else. Honestly. And this guy, he got up there and said, oh, do you think, killing people and starving children, which is an absolute lie, directed at Israel, is now up there with his tail between his legs. I'm telling you what, they're clueless. They've got no idea. On the one hand, this is schizophrenic politics. On the one hand, they can run our streets, but on the other hand, we'll kick so-and-so and this and that out. If that makes sense to you, you're a better person than what I am. It's just absolute off its fucking tits. I'm out.